Now, a common argument among conservative politicians is that if you give corporations more money while cutting their taxes, they will create jobs. It's sort of a classic trickle-down economics scenario. Well, it turns out that in Wisconsin, they did this, and then they decided not to even track if they created jobs. Now, let's get into some of the specifics here. Now, Governor Scott Walker created a job creation agency that basically was set up to disperse loans. And, well, not loans, grants to different corporations so that they will fulfill the dream of creating jobs for people in Wisconsin. It's called the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. And it was created in 2011 to give taxpayer dollars to private corporations to help them create jobs for Wisconsin workers. However, a new audit on these, of more than 100 grants from this agency, found that this WEDC failed to follow up on whether the companies were actually creating jobs. So basically, Scott Walker, his administration said, here, just take this free taxpayer money and just say that you're going to create jobs with it, and we're not going to follow up. Here you go.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, and this is the same guy that demonizes the unions, that demonize fair wages and living wages for workers. Meanwhile, and always calls for a smaller government, no government intervention, you know, parrots that whole narrative. Meanwhile, when it's time to, like, pat his cronies on the back, here he is just giving them away money. I mean, it's just, hypocrisy 101.
Mm-hmm. And look, you want to talk about, too, oversight, right? Now, Scott Walker loves to say that, you know, we need oversight of our, of people, right? Of who we give our taxpayer money to. Well, according to, this report, the group gave loans and tax credits to companies that didn't even meet the requirements for getting those loans. And they didn't even attempt to fact-check claims by the companies about the number of jobs it created, as I had said. Additionally, the agency forgave, wrote off, or deferred more than $4 million in loan payments that the corporations were supposed to pay back to the state. Once again, free money, crony capitalism.
Yeah. Yeah, he's all about oversight when it comes to, you know, the single mom that's working 3 or 4 jobs to put food on the table. He wants oversight there, but when it comes to corporations, give them money. Throw it at them. They're going to create jobs.
It's that classic conservative meme, man. Like, well, the corporations just need tax breaks and they need money to create jobs. Because it is them who create jobs, not the people. And let me kind of point out the hypocrisy of this as well. Now, this comes at a time where Wisconsin Republicans are demanding more oversight into what people on food stamps are buying with taxpayer money. You can't buy shellfish. Mm-hmm. There's a bill going around in Wisconsin right now, and we've covered this before, that would ban state shellfish and just basically, it would create food police. Where we have to watch everything that if you're getting taxpayer money, well, we have to make sure that you're spending it on just these things. And you try to buy something else, well, you can't do that. Now, that sort of, some restrictions on what you can buy make sense, like not buying alcohol and tobacco with taxpayer money. I get that. But you can't even buy fish fillets or fish sticks or any sort of beef product on food stamps if this bill goes through. And so they're talking about oversight of regular people while they throw money at corporations. Mm-hmm. Absolute hypocrisy.
Well, here's what interests me a little bit. I mean, Scott Walker is kind of like the poster child for just the ultimate right-wing corporatist politician, which that's saying an awful lot. When you see how corporate favorable not only Republicans are, but a lot of Democrats are too. The fact that Scott Walker is kind of like the ultimate of that's saying an awful lot given our current political sphere. But he is. Scott Walker also does not have a college degree. Now, quick disclaimer, I'm not implying that if you don't have a college degree, you're not smart or anything like that. Some of the smartest people I know do not have college degrees, all right? And there's 1,000,005 reasons why people do or don't go to college. So I'm not making that. But what I will say, one thing the corporation generally does not like, the corporation does not like critical thinking. What is the skill that is most harped upon in higher education, or at least is supposed to be? Critical thinking. And Scott Walker, I mean, this is a guy that I think is just a blank suit that just falls into that category of the idea of free thinking was never introduced to him. The thought never occurred to him. He stayed in his little GOP bubble, and that is still where he exists. He's good at doing what he's told when it's coming from the people with the heavy pocketbooks, and here he is giving this handout, and that's what the corporation wants. I mean, a corporation in general. And I'm not saying like every single corporation is as unethical as the next. There are some that are better examples than others, but generally speaking, this whole structure thrives on setting up rules that benefit a few, that don't benefit the entirety. So you thrive upon this groupthink mentality that is actually very toxic in most cases, and you thrive upon workers that are just willing to do what they're told without asking questions, without analyzing what's really going on, because then they're going to see, wait a second, we're getting scraps while the CEO is making 475 times what we do. And that's how predatory capitalism has gotten to the point where it is in the United States. So I can't help notice this little parallel here where the ultimate corporatist politician also doesn't have a college degree, also thinks that thinking for yourself is something quite dangerous.
And if you think we're just making this up because we're part of the liberal elite, I've got some stats back here of what Scott Walker has done to the education system in Wisconsin. He seeks to slash about $300 million from the University of Wisconsin system. And systematically, all across different states that are under Republican controlled, what's the first thing that they cut? They slash. Education. First higher education, and then they go after the public school system. And then they try to champion vouchers for all. Here's a coupon so you can send your kid to school. And if you can't afford the full cost, sad day for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
yeah, I mean, he's the ultimate, just corporatist, anti-intellectual, do what you're told. Those that have the money and the power should be able to rule you. That's what Scott Walker is. That's why he hates the unions. That's why he hates the idea of living wages. That's why he's not a fan of education. And you can't help but just see the connection of all of this. And I have a feeling he probably wouldn't even understand if you sat down with the guy and explained, hey, here's how you're an absurd hypocrite here. I don't even think he would understand the logic. I really don't.
Well, either that or he's very, and maybe I'm giving him too much credit, but maybe he knows all this stuff and he does it regardless.
Maybe.
Because it's good. For him, it's good political strategy because it gets him a lot of money. I've often regarded Scott Walker as one of the more dangerous politicians, that it's sort of the dark horse, sort of the, nobody really pays much attention to him on the media cycle because he doesn't say ridiculous things like Ben Carson and Ted Cruz. But his policy prescriptions are incredibly dangerous, and he has this anti-union, anti-worker, anti-education credentials to back him up, and that appeals to the money men. So I think when it comes to 2016 especially, he is a danger. I would look out for Scott Walker.
That's a good point. I actually didn't think, but you're right. He does have the whole, he doesn't put his foot in his mouth as many as some do.
Right.
And yet he has, when you look at this guy's policies, he is incredibly dangerous. And yeah, that's a good point. Maybe I'm not giving him enough credit. You might be right.
Certainly. I don't think the media, most media doesn't give him enough credit, and that's sort of why he's ignored, is because he's not part of that political sideshow that we see all the time coming from the right wing. But, and look, I don't know if he doesn't, I don't know if he's got the rhetoric to pass a GOP primary, but he certainly has the record.
Well, I was just going to ask you, I was like, well, what do you think his shots are in 2016 then?
I'd say still fairly good.
Mm-hmm. I think so too.
I'd keep my eye on Scott Walker. And as far as the GOP goes, too, I'm not even sure that this is much of a scandal to them. Oh, we're giving corporations money. But that's what all of our policies are designed to do. Give money to the corporations and, cut their taxes and then hope that they create jobs. That's their entire economic plan. And of course, it's no surprise that it backfires and, causes even deeper, cuts, of course, in social services and education and everything like that, in huge budget deficits. But no matter how much you try to tell a conservative that, they don't listen. They always try to blame it on liberal policies and things.
Yeah, I think on the Republican end of this, they would see this as a positive thing, that there's no government interference in something like this. Because like we were just saying, they're all about quote unquote government interference when it comes time to who are we giving food stamps to and what are they using their food stamps for? How can we regulate a woman's body? How can we do this? But when it comes time for oversight on corporations, then all of a sudden small government in the sense that we won't interfere. We'll still write you a check. But, we won't, if you're creating jobs, not creating jobs, we don't care. Here's your check because we know we're going to get it back in some form or another when we're running again.
Unless it's Solyndra. Unless it's Solyndra. Then we should have all the oversight in the world and just keep hammering it on it. So.